Hi, I'm Sophia Chan. I'm a third-year PhD student in the Kumar group at Columbia University. Um, Unfortunately, we couldn't host you due to the coronavirus, but hopefully everyone is safe and healthy. So I wanted to do this Affording New York City Zoom presentation because I remember being really worried about living on a graduate student stipend in one of the most expensive cities in the world. So it turns out it is 100% doable. In this presentation, I'm going to be talking about housing, food, fun activities, which were the majority of my expenses in my PhD so far. But in this presentation, I'm essentially going to show you that you will not be broke. In fact, you'll probably save a lot of money. So mostly it's going to be about food and fun activities, but I know everyone's really worried about rent, so let's just get that out of the way. So I want to emphasize that Columbia is completely aware that it is in one of the most expensive cities in the world, and the stipend will reflect that. There have already been a lot of Zoom presentations that my friends have made, so be sure to check those out. But the bottom line is that Columbia PhD students will have access to affordable housing. Something special is that Columbia owns most of the housing near its campuses, so it can subsidize compared to normal New York City prices. Especially first-year PhD students, they have very high priority for university apartment housing. So I created a survey about affording New York City, and I sent it to my graduate student friends, and about 20 people filled it out. They all reiterate that it is very easy to live in New York City on our Columbia stipend. So the first question is, how much do you spend on food a month on average? And it ranges from $100 to $400, but the majority of people spend around $200 to $300 a month per person on average, which is on par with the average American spending expenses. So the next question is, how often do you eat in? So cooked, homemade, packaged food. So it ranges from 6 to 20 times a week, and there's a pretty even distribution, so that shows that, it's very, there's a lot of give and take on how much you feel like cooking. So everyone sort of reiterates that cooking is pretty essential to living in the city. So the next question was, where do you go to buy groceries? And these people can check multiple options, and you can see that there's a pretty large variety of different grocery stores that you can choose from. So now I want to switch really quick to Google Earth, where I want to show the different grocery stores and a little bit about them. So here's Columbia University, and right across the street is Morton Williams. There's also West Side Market that's on 110th Street, and Apple Tree Market, which is on 120th Street. So it's going to be right next to Mud Building, which is where most of the department works. So these three grocery stores, Morton Williams, West Side Market, and Apple Tree, they are open 24 hours, 7 days a week for every single 365. They essentially never close. So you can buy groceries at 3 a.m. on Christmas if you feel like it. They're open. I do want to also mention H Mart, which is a very large major Korean grocery store. So you can buy East Asian food there, and you don't have to go all the way to Chinatown. That's something I was worried about when I was coming to Columbia. Another thing is Trader Joe's. So Trader Joe's is probably the cheapest option out of all these grocery stores. It's probably the furthest away, but it is still within walkable distance. I also want to mention the Columbia Green Market, which is the farmers market that comes to Columbia every Thursday and Sunday. They have a lot of organic options, and they also have, what's really convenient is the clothing and compost collection twice a week. So there are other grocery stores uptown, such as Fairway, Seatown, Food Town, and Whole Foods. So you can basically see that there's a pretty large variety of grocery stores that Columbia students frequent. So back to the survey. The next question I asked was, how often do you eat out a month on average? And it ranges from I do not eat out to I only eat out. and there's pretty distribution between 1 to 5 times a month and 11 to 20 times a month. So you can see that you can eat out and not go broke. So I also asked for a few tips on affording food in New York City. And I do want to say that food in New York City, even in grocery stores, is more expensive than most other cities. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but everyone says that affording food has never been an issue given our stipend. They do want to stress that to learn how to meal prep and to pack lunch and breakfast. Another tip is that there's a lot of free food events on campus and MUD, so bring Tupperware to the office. And we also have a lot of food trucks that are around campus, such as breakfast carts, halal carts, and East Asian food, and they really help to stick to a low food budget. If you're a foodie like my best friend, you could wait for the biannual restaurant week, and restaurant week is basically a way for these really high-class dining restaurants to allow a certain catered menu for a much cheaper cost. So it's a great way to splurge a little and eat at a Michelin star restaurant in the city. So on to some fun activities. I asked what they would recommend to a new graduate student at Columbia, and there's a very, very long list of different things that they recommended. And I do want to talk about these 4 items: museums, Broadway, school events, and campus clubs. So a lot of people recommended museums, and the reason why is because we have something called the Arts Initiative at Columbia. And using our Columbia ID, you can get into a lot of different museums in the city for free or very, very discounted. So here you can see that the MoMA, we can get into the MoMA, which is the Museum of Modern Art, and the Metropolitan Museum of Art, or the Met, for free. The Arts Initiative has a box office called TIC, or the Ticket and Information Center. And they also have a lot of discounts for Broadway shows, opera, ballet, that sort of thing. And somebody mentioned that they went to 20 shows so far for $30 to $50 per ticket. And I myself have, in my first semester, I went to like 4 or 5 shows, and I think I only spent like $150 in total. Without this Columbia discount, each ticket would be $150. We also have a ton of different campus clubs, I think over 300. And I am in the Columbia Taekwondo and the Columbia Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Club. And I think it's really, really worth it to join these clubs because I pay 1/5 of what I would normally pay off campus for the same like high quality instruction. And it's a great way to make some friends and work out when you're, spending all day in lab. And again, we have school events, EGSC events, or the Engineering Graduate Student Council puts on like events for Broadway and sports games, movies, socials. So it's a great way to just grab some food and hang out with someone. So other fun activities to do in the city, we have live stand-up. There's super cheap midweek stand-up that happens throughout the city. And I do know Comedy Cellar and Upright Citizens Brigade are really popular spots. Also kind of similar, there are a lot of late night shows that you can grab tickets for free, such as SNL, Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers, and Stephen Colbert. I've been to the Stephen Colbert show for free, and it was a pretty great night. There are also a lot of concerts, so obviously in New York City, it's not going to be a problem for you to get a big name, get a ticket to a big name artist, and it's only 20 to 30 minutes away by train. There are a lot of free and cheap concerts as well. There's something called the Summer Stage, which is a super big, it's like I think New York City's biggest free concert, and it's in Central Park, comes every year, and there's a lot of different artists that come and perform. Of course, in New York City, we have tourist spots such as Times Square, Central Park, Empire State Building, and the Statue of Liberty. And something that's great about being a graduate student at Columbia is that you can go to these tourist spots on off hours or off season. Just please do not go to Times Square on New Year's Eve, please. And lastly, we have hiking. There's a lot of great hiking spots upstate, so you can just rent a zip car with friends and just go hiking or backpacking. So last slide, I wanted to do a sample budget of my first and second fall semesters to show how easy it is to save money. So your stipend after taxes per month is about $2,700. And it increases 2 to 3% every year. My rent when I first came to Columbia was $1,120. And like the stipend, it increases 2 to 3% every year. My food and my entertainment costs didn't really change that much between my first and second fall semesters. My transportation, when I first came here from California, I was so excited that there were so many trains and buses that you can visit up and down the East Coast. So I visited friends in Pennsylvania, Boston, and DC. So that was the increase in price. But, and then also in the other category, when you're moving to a new city, you have to make a lot of big one-time purchases like pots, pans, a rice cooker, and that sort of thing. And you can see that it gone down a lot in the second fall semester. So in the first fall semester, I saved $530, and in my third semester, I saved almost $1,000. So hopefully I've convinced you that it is really easy and affordable to live in New York City on a graduate student stipend. And I mean, of course, it's it's important to budget, but you definitely can have some fun, eat some great food, be a grad student, and save money at the same time.